Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Thursday, June 4th, 2026. That's more than 6 years of Torah every single weekday morning. Finding each other from all over the world to say good morning and learn some Torah, start the day together, to find each other with joy and more optimism. So Pete, Scott, Jonathan, and Kathleen, Susie, good to see all of you. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Hi, Michelle. Linda and Cecile, Arlene and Caroline, good morning. Hi, Tara. It is broadcast 1562, I believe, which is quite something. Caroline and Jerry, Lydia and Debbie, Barry, Boker Tov, it's good to see all of you. In a second, we'll sing a bracha, we'll learn some Torah, and we'll start our day together. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Jack. Hi, Barry. All right, let's take a breath, sing a blessing. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Let's start with something joyful, and then I will raise up, Sherry, what you just shared. But in terms of the joy, the Knicks won last night. Okay. If you're a Spurs fan, I wish you comfort, but I'm pretty happy as a New Yorker to be able to see the success of my hometown team. More seriously, Sherry just shared that her family's mezuzah the glass mezuzah was ripped off of the front door and smashed to pieces. The landlord said there's nothing he can do about it. And Sherry, you weren't sure if you should share about this on social media or not. What are our thoughts? So you say thank you. Very important for us right now to not ignore when these things happen, because unfortunately these things happen. So here are a few things that I would suggest. First of all, Sherry, comfort to you and to your family. And of course there is something the landlord can do. This is a hate crime and it should be reported. And whoever the landlord answers to, meaning the owner of the property, should also be aware of this. There should be a camera somewhere, not only focused on Jewish doors, because everyone deserves protection. But in addition to this, I would suggest, friends, and I'm saying this as a rabbi, I don't usually push us in specific directions of action, but I'm going to do it now. If your home, friends, doesn't have a mezuzah, go get one now and put it up on your door. Make it pretty. Make it special. We don't hide. A mezuzah is based on many different parts of Torah, including the very original time, the very first time that we placed blood on the doorposts in Egypt. It was an act of deep courage. It was an act of bravery, of public declaration of identity. And so, friends, in Oh, so Shari, he is the owner. So you'll figure out what you need to do. But all of us, in solidarity with you and with devotion to our people's history, should have mezuzahs on our doors. So, friends, go get one. They're available at your local Judaica store. Your synagogue gift shop might have extra ones, and you can always find it online. Mezuzahs belong on our doors, and dignity belongs in our world. We can have both. We should expect nothing less. There's also a lot to say, friends, about this parsha, but let's make sure that we don't only live in reactive energy. We also have to make sure that we hold ourselves constant and ourselves to account when we violate norms. I'm not comparing desecration of a Jewish home in the name of anti-Semitism to what I'm about to name, but you might have seen, friends, that just yesterday, the deputy chief of Israel's Supreme Court, his house, his family's home, while they were home in Alon Shvut, was attacked by a mob of Haredim who shattered windows and attacked their homes. And his wife was was recorded in by journalists saying, "What is this, Kristallnacht?" It is important for us to understand that we can both fight for Jewish dignity when the outside world tramples on it, but we cannot in any way sacrifice the dignity we owe ourselves, and therefore the accountability that this moment demands. The Haredi world in Israel is not one thing. It's very important for us to distinguish between Haredim who are working on behalf of Medinat Yisrael. There are Haredim who are working to be part of a solution, integrating into the community, integrating into the army. That is work that UJA has been involved with very seriously, because we cannot stand as a community divided. But we cannot stand for when part of our community attacks another part. And the kind of attack that yesterday represented a frenzied mob, compared by, a sister, a mother, a daughter of Israel, to Kristallnacht, means that was her emotional experience of what was done. And so I'm not comparing the two, but in both cases, Jewish glass was shattered. In the case, Shari, of your family, it was done at a Jew. And in the case of what happened yesterday at the home of Israel's Deputy Chief Supreme Court Justice, was done by Jews. We have a responsibility to make sure that we hold ourselves to account as well. It's a very complicated thing to do. It's a dance that I'm not sure any of us does well. I'm sure that I do it clumsily in my attempts to articulate a response. But here we must stand for dignity within and beyond. That's what we must do. And so we have to be able to talk about this out loud. Shari, yes, you should post it on Facebook, because people should know. And I would say turn every moment like this into a demand for solidarity and a call for Jewish action, which includes getting mezuzahs. Because we should not see this attack as a reason for hiding. We don't take our kippot off. We don't put our necklaces into our shirts. We wear them with pride, and we defy the world, just like we've been taught to do. In moments of Jewish instability, we have shown up with wisdom and strategy and strength, and that is what we do as a community. That is what we have earned the right to do because of the sacrifice of so many who've come before us. And so any attack, violence done in the name of any understanding of religion or anti-religion, violence is violence and is wrong. We must be able to say so. I don't really know how to connect it to this week's Parsha, so let me just share a brief thought from this week's Torah portion. Behaalotecha is all about raising up the candles, not candles at the time, lighting the lights of the menorah, which was the 7-branched candelabrum, not the Chanukiah that we have, which has 8 branches plus a shamash. This was 6 branches plus a shamash. And there's a really interesting question asked. If you don't have a familiarity yet with the really fascinating Hasidic thinker, the Mea Shiloach, Rabbi Mordechai Yosef Leiner of Ishbitz, also known as the Ishbitzer. He has this very, very powerful book called the Mea Shiloach. And he asks in it, there's a verse from the Parsha, I'll just read it in the English. God spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you prepare the lights, 7 lights shall illuminate toward the front of the menorah." That's Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, chapter 8, verse 1. Listen closely again. 7 lights shall illuminate toward the front of the menorah. But remember, it's not 7 lights in the way that we think about it. It's 6 lights and the center light, what we would call for the Chanukiah, the Shamash. So listen to this interesting paragraph. Why is it written 7 lights and not 6 lights? You could say there were actually 6, 3 on each side of the central light, with the central light being in its own category. From this we may understand that even in a place where one's intention is for the sake of heaven, they must again contemplate how to proceed, further reconsidering how it is in accordance with the will of the blessed God. This is why it says 7 lights, for the 7th flame stands for the intention for the sake of heaven, and this too must bend toward the Shekhinah, toward the divine presence. Perhaps the connection between what we've been saying earlier and this teaching by the Ishbitzer is that the Haredi community, who considers themselves ideologically devoted to God and to God's own truth, even someone who believes that they're acting l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, which for me is irreconcilable with the attack on the Deputy Chief Supreme Court Justice's home. It's irreconcilable. But even for someone who thinks that they are fighting for God's own truth, they must bend toward the Shekhinah and think again. It's not easy to live in such a complicated world. And from a place, I think, of graciousness and compassion, Haredim see themselves as a community distinct. I don't defend their claim, but from their standpoint, they are fighting for God's truth. And even from their standpoint, the Ishbitzer, the Mea Shiloach, Rabbi Mordechai Yosef Leiner, is saying, you must pause and consider again, is this me leaning towards Shekhinah, towards God's presence? We recognize hate when it's done to us. Are we courageous enough to point out when we are the ones doing it to each other? Again, it's important to remember, Haredim are not one group. There's a real diversity in the world of ultra-Orthodoxy. Even that term doesn't work, and even the word Haredi is complicated because it just means trembling. Anyone who trembles before God, in a certain sense, is Haredi, but it's a political and demographic reality in Israel and around the world that we're speaking about. It's not one group. But the smaller group from within that larger category that carried out the attack must be held to account. And each of us should remember, as we respond, as we react, as we fight, as we lead, as we teach, as we live, we must always make sure that our actions are for the sake of heaven. And even when we believe that that's what we're doing, we must take the extra step and contemplate. Is this leaning towards Shekhinah, towards God's presence, which we learned earlier in the book of Bamidbar, and also later, and in the book of Shemot, and the very purpose of Jewish community. Vasuli mikdash v'shechanti b'tocham. Only by building something holy together does the Shekhinah reside. We must make sure that we are living toward each other, for each other, with each other in each other's hearts, if we want to truly be closer to Shekhinah than we were before. I would bless us to do this very hard work of holding ourselves as a people accountable while we fight for our very survival and for our dignity. So again, if your home doesn't have a mezuzah, today's the day to get one. Make it pretty. Make it proud. Am Yisrael Chai. Let's send our hearts to the east and sing. Kol hon balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.